Welcome to another episode of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. I am super excited about today's episode. Man, I've got a guy in here. I've been trying to get on here since we've opened this podcast and our schedules finally aligned. This is a big deal for me, and you'll understand why as we get farther into it. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening, and let's get at it. But beforehand, I just want to say this episode is sponsored by Pure Family Fitness. Pure Fitness is a brand here on the Eastern Shore and spreading the wings out towards other markets of the best gyms in the area. Okay. Listen, I'm very partial to it. They've been great to me. I've been friends with the owners forever, but also I've been doing business with them for the past 6 years. And a lot of my growth has been attributed to them, and a lot of our athletes' success has been attributed to them. So awesome. Shout out to them. Also, guys, if you get value from this episode, or you know somebody that will, we ask this every episode. We do all of our content for free. We don't ask anything of you. We want to provide value, but please like, subscribe, comment, give me a review on all platforms. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Music. We're on Facebook. Man, give us a fucking smoke signal, for God's sakes. All right, just let us know that you love us and what you think, and even the feedback. If we could do something better, you want to hear something, talk about us, that helps us get to higher in the search engines. It just helps us be able to give more value to more people. And again, my mission statement is to improve the quality of life for everyone around me through mindset and fitness. And by you guys liking and subscribing and sharing this with people who get value of it, I'm able to hit my goals. So without further ado, I am super excited. Like I said, I'm happy to announce we have Mr. Tony Taghipour in the building. Tony, how are you today, man?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So for those who don't know, Tony is the founder of Pure Fitness, excuse me. He used to be owner of the Powerhouse franchise here on the Eastern Shore. He has been in the business for a long time. I didn't even ask you how long, but
About 30
years.
plus years.
That's what I thought. And I'm super excited to have him on here because I think his story is something that every entrepreneur should hear. Every person should hear. I'm obviously partial because his son is my best friend, and he's been a great mentor to me and friend to me, and vice versa. But no, man, it's just great to have someone who has spent so much hard work and dedication on building such a great brand, and then to see where it's gone to from there. And we'll get into that. But yeah, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just looking forward to be here with you.
Good.
Yeah, we talked about this quite a bit.
Yes, we have. And I'm, I want to get right into it, man. You know what I mean? There's an old saying, right? And they say that if you want to make money, don't open a gym. Right? And I've learned that through pain and trials and tributes.
Sure.
But I've also seen the other side of that, right? I also seen, for me, you know what I mean, being in the gym business, learning how to, a lot of it's front loading. You got to front load everything in the beginning when you're building a brand. So, I think it's worth noting, man. Can you give us, our listeners, I know the story, but I want our listeners to hear, how did it all start?
Actually, you're right. Let's just talk about what you just said about if you don't want to make money, open up a gym.
Yeah.
So I experienced that from a different type of business. Just let's say about 10, 15 years ago, I think. I used to go to this carryout when I had Powerhouse Gym in Ocean City, West Ocean City. And this carryout, I really liked their food. And I thought this might be a good idea to own this place, something like this.
Yeah.
Long story short, to just kind of validate what you were saying, I ended up buying that place, a small little place. That good food, within 3 months, became the worst food in West Ocean City.
Wow.
And needless to say, in 6 months, I thought the best idea is now to sell the place. So it all comes to what you know and what you're really good at and what you want to do. I've been an athlete all my life. In high school, I was in a wrestling team. Later on, in soccer teams, and then obviously, they call it football over there, where I came from. I was born in Tehran, Iran. And that's a different story I'll tell you about. So I learned you need to stick to what you know. And all my life, I've been involved in some kind of sports. And I always dreamed about, when I was in high school, someday I would like to own my own gym. So this has been a dream of my lifetime.
Wow.
To end up to do that. And then again, I'm not going to talk about anyone else, but my advice to other people would be, if you're going to end up with any business, including health club business or gym business, you need to understand it's going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to wake up and you're going to think about your business. Think twice. What do you want to think about at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because you will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and think about the business and that you're going to do something tomorrow or all the things you have to do. So this has always been for me. It's been for me to be in this business. And in 1978, when I got a student visa to come to the U.S., I was accepted in Arizona State University in Arizona. So I went there. And needless to say, within a year, shit happens in Iran with this new regime and all that stuff. We won't get into that. So shortly after, I figured out there is no way I want to go back to that. So, because the original plan was I'm going to go to school here, get my business degree and all that, go back to my family business back home, so-called back home at the time. So, needless to say, I decided I'm not going back after that. As a matter of fact, most of my family left after that. So when I got my degree in business, I decided I'm going to pursue something that I always wanted it, which is health club business. It took me a while because initially I went to business with my brother with different type of business, which we kind of got to a point to understand the best case scenario for us is to save our family relationship and get out of the business. So, and it took me a little bit to get back on my feet to do this. So, and I started researching for a place to call it my own.
I love, not to cut you off, I love the word research because then is a totally different way of researching than it is now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Most people just pull up a button.
It was DOS.
Yeah.
The computer, there was no window. It was DOS. I had to research through DOS. So I'm sure most young people don't know what DOS is.
Yeah, I
That's
don't.
an operating system for Microsoft. Now it's called Windows. At the time was called DOS.
Wow.
Actually, behind Windows now is DOS. DOS is still there. That's what any older people would know what I'm talking about.
No, I didn't know that myself.
Yeah. So I looked into two different places. I wasn't really ready nor had the experience to open up my first gym or first club. So I started looking for some existing business. And there were two of them. One of them was in Ocean City, I found online, and one was in Florida. So I decided to go to look at the Florida.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of story of my life. Here I am living in Florida. So, and you believe it or not, that was right in Hollywood. Hollywood, Florida is just about 40 minutes away from where I live now, Fort Lauderdale.
Yep.
And it was Powerhouse Gym. It was a huge gym, but this is where the homework comes handy. If I would have made that mistake, if I would have bought that club, today I would be probably selling ice cream or doing something. Nothing against selling ice cream, but I would not be in health club business. I would be totally out of business. As big and as huge and as attractive the price of that place was, I said, something is not right. So I looked into that and I find out the problem with that club was, and they're all on my own, first business, that what I was determined not to lose. So I find out that they had a lot of pre-sale, like paid in full. Paid in full in health club business means a member, prospective member comes, and then you just say, okay, for a year, it's going to be whatever, $400.
Mm-hmm.
You pay me now for $350 or $300. And this guy who owned that place, he did that probably for most of his members, like about 80, 90% of his members were paid in full. Mm. So if I would have bought that place, even if he would have gave me that place, I had to carry these people for a year.
Wow.
So that means I wouldn't stay in business. So I flew back. I said, I'm going to look at, because the reason I went there, because that club was like about 30,000 square feet. This was like about 3,800 square feet, very small.
What year was this?
It was 1997.
Okay.
That was when I bought the powerhouse here, 1997.
So you came in 78.
I came in 78. I went to school. I was in Arizona for 16 years.
16.
16, yeah.
Wow.
I was a general manager, so I guess I skipped that part. When I finished my school, I decided I'm going to stick around there. I didn't have any money, so I just had to do something. So I started working for this company that they did travel agent. It was a combination of travel agencies and off-airport parking facilities and all that. So I worked for this company as I managed the company. And I did actually good. I was making okay money. I was very happy. I love Arizona. Arizona is one of a kind. I think it's the best place I can describe it to you. It's just beautiful. So I was there until 1993. I left Arizona in 1993, and I came to Maryland, other side of the bridge in Gaithersburg area, Montgomery County. The intention was to go to business with my brother, and that didn't work out. So I was there in that area for a few years or so, and then finally I did some other odd jobs until I decided this is not why I came here.
Sure, that's what's helping me connect the dots a little bit, because it's like you were from Arizona, and then you spin the globe and you close your eyes and you point at two spots and like, we're going to go to Maryland, we're going to go to Florida, but no, you were in Maryland.
Yeah.
So you had an understanding of the western side or the eastern side, shore and things like that, and then you were looking at the two clubs. You said one was 30,000 square foot versus 3,800 square foot.
That's why I went to see. I wanted this big one. Of course, everybody wants the biggest one. So I wanted that, and then I just said, "Oh no, I'm not going to be." It took a couple of days to look at that. I just said, "I cannot do that." So I came back here. I looked at the one in Ocean City. It was a very unique gym. I cannot even call it a club. It was a very unique gym.
Where was this one located, if you mind me asking?
It is exactly what one of my location is now.
Still,
but of course in a different version now. I mean,
sure.
Now it's about 30,000 square feet. We added and added and added. It's just right on the Food Line Shopping Center in West Ocean City.
Okay.
When you want to go to 611, when you want to go to Aztec Island. So I got there, I looked at the place. Oh my God, that was a scary place. I swear, I'm not kidding you. I walk in there, all these guys, I mean a bodybuilder. On that note, I even made U.S. national in bodybuilding later on, but that was for later. But I never had any problem seeing big guys or anything like. But I walked in there. When I walked in there, I just said, "Oh my God, how can a woman walk into this place and not to be scared?" Wow. I was a guy. I was kind of a little intimidated. Yeah. So, and I'm an athlete. I said, okay. And then I looked into it and I find out what is going on there. Basically, and this is no joke, they had like about 180 members, 180. Wow. That doesn't even pay your electricity.
No.
So, but then later on I find out how they're making their money. It wasn't necessarily from selling membership. So, and
why they were so big, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
understood.
Exactly.
I catch your drift.
And we leave it at that. And then I said, no, that's not going to happen if I buy this place. But the good news was the place was very cheap, because that was the second guy was about to go out of business. So I ended up getting that for a very good price. And I said, now what? So I decided to take the biggest chance of my life, and I did. And these are all true stories. I went one by one, got rid of about 40 or 50 of those people. I asked them respectfully, you're no longer a member. You are leaving. Sure. So I ended up about barely over 100 members. Now what? So
can I stop you there? Because
sure.
There's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you were probably around 18 years old when you went to college in Arizona. No. How old were you roughly?
I was in my 20s.
Okay.
Because when I was in Iran, we had a business and we were working.
Okay.
We all family. We had it was a family business, and my college happened in Arizona. Happened by coincidence. We had this very close family friend. He was my oldest brother's high school friend.
Yep.
He lived in Arizona, and he always, don't laugh at this. He always heard about my infatuation for John Wayne.
Yeah.
He always knew how much I liked the Western culture, and how much because most movies at that time Iran was the best allies to U.S. So everything was happening there. So I kind of grew up with that Cowboys and Indians.
Yep.
So I always liked that. And he came, we had a conversation, and he was talking to my brother. He says, well, he likes this kind of stuff. Why not he come there and go to school? And but after some discussion, I'm working with I said, yeah, we're going to try this. So, and then he went there and he applied for me at Arizona State for the invitation of as a student. So I came, and the rest is history. But that was in my late 20s.
So I think that, and that's what I'm getting at is here comes a guy not native to America, in his 20s, late 20s, and I think it's safe to say, in our 20s, we know very little about the world and what we want to do.
I didn't know anything.
Mind you, to my understanding and the research that I've done, this was a whole different Iran than it is now.
Yeah.
And gosh, if they could just get it right. I mean, I hear that Iran is a beautiful place to be.
Well, if you want to talk about that place, there are so many different things, but that's not the. But let me just kind of give you a couple of things about that country. A lot of people misunderstand. Number one, there is a dispute there between there and Egypt, but Iran is the oldest country on planet, the oldest civilization. The constitution that Cyrus the Great, 2,500 years ago, he wrote. I mean, his system was the most advanced civilization you could ever hear until America came along. Which America is the great. I've never seen a civilization like America. Mm-hmm. But Cyrus the Great's name is in Bible. I think it's 12 times, if not more, because unlike today's world, everybody's looking at it differently because of the crazy government over there. Cyrus the Great, I think his wife was Jewish, and he decided that he's going to save the Jews because at that time, I think, unfortunately, throughout the history, they always had some issues with the rest of the world. So a lot of them being enslaved. And then what he did, he put an end to that, and he made them tax exempt. And because of that, his name is in Bible, by the way. So he did so many good different things. Until Islam came there 1,400 years ago and virtually destroyed the Persian culture, and because they were intimidated by the culture that great and that deep, and now we see the leftover of them here in today's Iran, who are running the country. But Persians they don't give in to that. They don't give in to that. What we see sometimes on TVs and all that stuff, what they want us to see.
Yeah.
But what really is different. There are two groups of people, and the majority of people there, they don't want that government. They don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah, because I've done a little bit of research and a little bit of homework, and to what I've learned, and you would know better than I would, but I think when the Shah was in there, it was a prominent.
Oh,
I mean,
let me tell you something.
It was so great.
Let me tell you something crazy. Now
I didn't mean to pivot here, but it just kind of happened.
I have nothing. No, I'm glad that I can talk about this, and maybe some people can understand a little more. I remember when I was there, when I lived there, it was a big deal. We're talking about 70s.
Yep.
In 70s, all this advanced technology and the planes like fighters and all that, like F-16, F-15, F-14s, the only two countries, to just give you the alliance, the only two countries had those was America, was obviously the builder of those planes and Iran.
Wow.
Not even Israel had
Wow.
as close as Israel and America are. Yeah. So that's how close Iran was with America. But of course, politics is a crazy thing. It's people, they use the religion, the new government, they use the religion to achieve their personal goals.
Sure.
To give you an idea, if nothing else makes you want to cry, we're not going to cry here. But
I might.
but I'm going to say this to you. When I exchanged money to come here in 1978, you don't have to know the currency, but I'm going to say it's called Toman. Toman is the currency of Iran. 7 Toman, I exchanged it for $1.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to know how much, to tell you how much these people have destroyed this country?
It's over $1 million.
Let me tell you the exchange today.
Yep.
For $1.
Yep.
100,000 Toman is $1.
I think it's up even more from there.
Even more.
Yes, which is insane.
Yeah, but then that doesn't end there. Let me tell you something else. Iran was making cars at that time, very nice car that was very popular. Now, they called it Tehran. It's this Tehran with $40,000. No, actually, they started at $36,000. 36,000, no, I'm sorry, not dollars, no, thinking dollars. 36,000 Toman, not dollars. 36,000 Toman. Just put that in a perspective. $1 now is 100,000 Toman. So there is no way you could buy a car for 50 cents.
Right.
But that just tells you what they have done to that country. Yeah. So that's for that part. We're just going to skip.
Yep. And why I said that is here you had this young man, move from his family business, his home, you know what I mean, which was thriving, beautiful place, and come to America, go to college, and then get a degree in business, and then have a couple of, ventures with his brother, realizes that that's not it, and he wants to follow his dream, right? And I think what's so incredible about that is no one in your family, to my knowledge, had an understanding of the gym business. No, this was Tony's dream. This was Tony's thing. He's an athlete. He grew up in the gym. He wants to chase his dream, and then he goes. Check this out. I really want to drive this point home. Then you go to what Ocean City is then, not what it is today. No. You go to a small club. You just seen this big club down in Hollywood, Florida. That that's glitz and glamour. And you go to this small club. You got 180 members. You know what I mean? You can't even survive off that. And because
160 actually.
160. We're making it even harder. but you can't even pay the bills with the existing members now. And because you were so passionate and knew what the right thing to do, and I'm going to get to that verbiage in a minute, but knew what the right thing to do, you actually told 50 members that they got to go.
They got to go.
They got to go.
And to be honest with you, at that point...
That's incredible.
At that point, I don't want to make it sound like a gamble, but it is a gamble. I felt like I'm sitting at the poker table. You're all in. I was all in because... And then you cannot be just all in without just thinking about it, some plan of action. My plan of action was, I'm going to let this town know this is not the same place anymore. By the way, at that time, there was no other gyms except the only two gyms that existed at that time in Ocean City. Mm-hmm. I know the Merit was in Salisbury, but in Ocean City, it was Powerhouse Gym, that little one, and it was OC Health and Racket, which is right on Route 90 and Coastal Highway.
Okay, yes,
which now is a hotel.
Yep.
Jerry owned that at that time. And that place was huge. That place had swimming pool, racquetball courts. I mean, we're talking about athletic club.
Not to mention, Tony, and I'm just going to say this for context. For people that think about Maryland, they think about Baltimore and Annapolis and the D.C. metro area. On the Eastern Shore, for the longest time, and you still have a lot of it now, but the internet has helped. We are a couple of steps back in the times. So for a guy, a Persian man to come in with an accent, to come into a place like Ocean City, to sit here and say, I'm going to let this town know who I am and that we're here. And first of all, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of a third of my clientele.
I had to.
Yeah. I think that's incredible, remarkable, because, why I'm saying this is because so many people, man, they want to have everything just perfect before they take action. They've got these great ideas. They've got these great business ventures. They want all the stars to align just perfect. They want everything to be just right, and it prevents them from taking an action. But when you hear a story like yours, and we haven't even got to the meat and potatoes, we're still in the intro. When you hear a story like yours, where you went fearless with this, and you knew exactly what you had to do, regardless if it was a gamble or not, to sit here and say, hey, this is where we're going to go today. This is how it's going to be done. There's a new sheriff in town, and I don't care about any elements. I don't care what anybody says, thinks, or does. This is the way I'm doing it because I know this is the right way, and obviously it led you to where you're at now. So,
and that's just to kind of, if you want to really know, and I don't mean to sound like about anything other than sometimes you have to take chances in life.
Yes,
It's not about bragging or anything. That was after, to just let you know, because I told you, there's no shame in that. I had no money. So I had to go to SBA. The SBA required, long story short, even for this was $100-some thousand gym. Just give you an idea how cheap that was. It was cheap.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That was a pretty penny back then, though.
It was, but it wasn't.
Minimum wage was like $5 an hour back then. Yep.
Yeah. And when I went to SBA, they required $10,000. They needed it, $10,000 in the bank to show that I can have cash flow, cash on hand in case something happens for the first month. I didn't have that. So I went to my brother. I said, hey, man, can I borrow $10,000 from you? Put it in. I know we had a little issue, but now I got to do it. So I asked for that. I said, I promise you, as soon as I get this loan, I'll give you the money.
By the way, I'm sorry for whatever happened.
Whatever happened, I need the money. But the family is always, family. So that's why I wanted to save the family part. So, and I had to borrow $10,000 to put it in the bank to just show that I'm credit worthy for 1 month, that I can just kind of survive for 1 month if anything happens. That's what after that I had to. But the reason I did that, the reason I went and I asked these people to leave, because I knew there is no way I could do anything with what I had in my hand.
Sure.
There is nothing. I didn't underestimate the previous ownership. I just knew they had a problem.
Yeah.
So I had to resolve that problem. That problem was they didn't have any female as members. They didn't have any children. They didn't have any families. They only had this huge, oversized bodybuilders, powerlifters, and that's not the kind of business that I was after. I mean, there are places that are very wonderful, great, and that's what they're catered to. That's fine. But that was not my goal.
Sure.
My goal was to have a family business. That's why you see after when we had our own brand, we call it a pure family.
Yes, sir.
That's always been my goal for families and all that. So what I did, I went to Dispatch newspaper. This man is still the owner there, Steve. He's a great guy. I love that guy.
I got a feeling that people need to break out their notepads right now for what you're about to say.
Yeah, I went to him. I said, hey, man, I wanted to, can I write some articles about health articles in your paper? At the time, his father still was around, but he still was the person I talked to. So, and he said, yeah. I said, I can do these things. I'm okay for writing. I can write a little bit. So, and I started writing in Dispatch, and I started putting ads out there in Dispatch as well, discount because I'm now writing for them and all that, to let them know the changes are coming. We are adding. They didn't even have a bathroom for ladies.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
That's incredible.
They had nothing. No aerobics room, no childcare, no place for women. So, and I let everybody know, let the town know what's happening, and we were changing everything. This is going to be a family gym, and it wasn't just a conversation. We started doing construction. Believe it or not, there were nights. Even Nick, he was very young. It was midnight with some of my employees. We were taking the floor up and putting a new floor ourselves. Because when I got that gym, I was a front desk person, I was a trainer, I was a cleaning lady, I was all of it.
Yes, sir.
So we had a couple of other employees, but that's all. I didn't even know how am I going to pay these people. But needless to say, after all these things happen. I opened up the next door. I went. The rent was very reasonable. I took a chance. I said, I'm all in, man. I got to do it.
Yeah.
Either I'm just gonna have to work for the rest of my life for this mistake, or I got to do it. So I write in the newspaper. People are very kind when they see somebody's trying, and I start putting banners all over the gym saying new management doing this and that, and we start showing construction. Bought some used equipment. I couldn't buy, so I bought some used equipment, put it in there, and we put a childcare in there. I'm going a little fast forward. Put a locker room for ladies and all that.
This is all stuff that people take for granted nowadays, especially here, that you automatically have in majority of the gyms. But back in the 90s, late 90s, this was something that, you know what I mean?
And in 1997, so I got that gym in October of 1997. By October of 1998, I had 1,400 members, 1,400 members in that little small gym. And what really made me brave, and I thought, I can do this, because majority in this, I never wanted demise. I never look for anybody's demise. I don't look at the competition as an enemy. Competition just makes me better, because I want to put a better equipment here. I want to take care of my members better, and without sounding like cliche here, just that's what the system in America is so amazing, because competition.
Well, I got a book back here called The 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
And they say one of the laws is find a worthy adversary because it's going to raise your tide. So many people get so worried about competition because they have this scarcity mindset. But a worthy adversary is going to bring your A game out if you really step up. And again,
it has to be healthy. You know, one of the things I learned in school, I learned a couple of things at business school. One of them was said, hey, competition is good, but you cannot go. This is actually, they say this in one of their business books. You cannot go in your competition's parking lot and start passing flyers saying, come to my gym.
Right.
You cannot do that.
Correct.
But there is a limit for
ethics.
So as long as you follow those rules and you don't look at your competition as an enemy, they're wonderful. It's great. It works for me. Let's put it this way. So back to what I was saying about competition, my only competition at that time was Jerry, was the Hilton Racket, which was a huge facility, and he owned the building. He was a great guy. He was an old coach. He had a lot of good experience, but it was just kind of little. He let things go. Things were dated a little bit for the equipment and all that. And I learned actually from that. So I learned what it takes to make my business healthier. So as better I did for the business, I got some of the business, some of his members from there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those people were just actually going to that gym for years, because that gym, I don't know how long it was there, but I heard it was there for a long time. I moved to Ocean City in 97. So I didn't know the total history of it, but I know it was there for a long time. So from that point on, the business got better, and I started adding to the size of the gym, Ocean City, in 1999. 2 years later, I opened the Salisbury gym. That was ground up. And I just went, looked at this shopping center. Actually, first, I was looking at the place here, without mentioning any names, was Kmart was. Mm-hmm. I was this location, which is an existing gym there. Yep. I looked at that, but I decided I'm going to go to the other side. So I went there, got a better deal and all that. So we started a Powerhouse Gym there, which was there until from 1999 until 2018, when we opened this one, Pure Fitness here in Salisbury. That's when we started our own brand, Pure Fitness, Pure Family Fitness.
Yeah, and I'm glad you segued into that concept, because it wouldn't do us justice if we didn't bring up Nick and your son.
Oh my God!
And what I think is so incredible, a lot of people don't know that Nick and I have been friends for about 25 years, right? Yeah. But Nick was friends with my cousin. My cousin was younger than me. You know what I mean? I was in doing other things with my life at that point, and young high school guys, they want to hang out with the older guy, right? And here I'd see this high school kid roll up in a Mercedes Benz, you know what I mean? And, I've started from very humble beginnings, you know what I mean? And, my cousin, he's loving to death, but he'd always find the guys that, were doing well so he could tag along a little bit and stuff like that, and automatically, like a lot of, people that are, have that mindset, like, who's this rich kid, right? Who does he think he is? And as I obviously have been humbled many times in my life, and I also got to know Nick better because him and I ended up becoming a lot closer friends than my cousin and him, just for, the way it worked out. Man, that guy was in your gym, 9 years old, working, grew up in the gym business all his life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was almost like he was destined to follow in that business. And the example, amongst the many other things that he does, the example that he sets on a daily basis when he's here is incredible. And I'll tell you one thing that I really admire. So anyway, the little rich kid thing was, no, this kid's father worked for every fucking thing that he had. And Nick's worked for everything that he's had. And Nick continues to have an insane work ethic, along with helping as many people that he possibly can, and going through life with many challenges and things like we all do. You know what I mean? But he's got some pretty big adversities. But the thing that I love about him, and this is one of the greatest examples that he led by that taught me very well, is we're walking through the gym from out back one day. We pulled up at the same time randomly, and we're talking and shooting the shit. And he walks by, and he picks up a piece of trash on the bottom of the floor of the gym as he's walking. It wasn't nothing big. It wasn't bad. It was just like a little, maybe a napkin somebody used to wipe. And he picked it up, and he picked up another one, right? Now, rarely this gym has trash because we're on top of it, and I love that. But I thought to myself, you pay cleaning people here. Well, you know what I mean? And then it dawned on me, holy shit. I also seen this guy driving forklift. I've also seen this guy, when you guys were moving, I also seen this guy sitting here manually carrying in the weights, manually carrying in the benches, running. Nick is a leader that is on ground zero with his people, and he leads by example, which I'm sure a lot of that you've instilled with him, which you've done a phenomenal job. But that right there, it again, without him even having to tell me, humbled me. And now I pick up Jim. That day forward, I pick up trash. Every single place I go that I see it, outside, in here. And it's not just in my gym. This is our place. You don't shit where you lay. You know what I mean? We sit here. This is our home. We have a big college crowd that comes in. And, when they come in, they come with a lot of great things. They come in a lot of their troubles or their challenges. And, people think that the gym is theirs because they're here all the time. And they just kind of forget to put the weights away, forget to pick up the trash, kind of, take for granted the forget to flush the toilets. Little things like that in that interaction when I saw him, it humbled me so much, like, oh my gosh, I got to lead like that. That's a leader that I want to be like. My friendship with Nick and my business relationship with Nick are two different things. And we do that purposely because, one, I know how many friends he's lost because he's intertwined the two. And I know how many I've lost in other ways. Also, success leaves clues. And what you guys have built here and have done and what he's done is insane. So I want to acknowledge and give him his flowers for that. But even more so, you know what I mean? When you guys, you had multiple powerhouses running at the time, Nick came in and really took the business a lot more serious and was ready to do a lot more things with you. And fast forward to Pure Family Fitness, a whole new brand. And he had a lot to do with the building of it, the creating of it,
Oh, absolutely. He designed this place.
Yeah.
He designed Salisbury. Well, something about Nick, of course, every child is precious to their parents. There is no question. And it's kind of, I don't want anybody to kind of think I'm just saying anything about him because he's my son. Of course, I love him. But something about him that is very unique when it comes speaking about business. When he was so young, you said 9, 10, in that age, he learned from grounds up like I did. Even though he was my son, he didn't have to go dig the ground to start his ground zero thing up, build his building. I still made sure, and again, I shouldn't even say I made sure, but he was very capable to learn what I was willing to teach him. He was very young when he started working at the gym with the bottle of cleaning in his hand with the rag, wiping the equipment down. He grew in this business. He has seen so many things in this business I never have, and I'm being honest. I started being in gym business, even though I've been an athlete all my life, but I started this like almost I was 30 years old. Not even owning it, just kind of getting involved with any kind of gym. He's been doing this since he was 9, 10 years old. And he knows more about the numbers than I ever knew or will know. And when we only had Ocean City Gym, and he was a young kid, he had to wake up in the morning one morning. He was a young teenager. I think he was middle school or something, because somebody didn't open the gym. Guess who was on a bicycle? I was living in Ocean Pines. From Ocean Pines, he got on a bicycle, went to West Ocean City, opened the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's Nick.
Yes.
And later on, again, since we still had that one gym, we did not have the money to hire people, professionals, to put the floor down and all that stuff because the place was a mess. Midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, with some of my staff, Nick was on the floor putting floor down. So he has paid his dues to drive a Mercedes.
100%.
I drove to this town in a little Mazda truck that it was worth maybe $3,000-4,000. It is easy for some people to judge, to see now somebody's driving this or that, but that's okay. Some people choose. We have, without mentioning names, in our precious town, we have billionaires with a B, that they drive a simple Chevy truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That's their choice. I'm not going to say why this guy is so rich and driving a Chevy truck, but never mind the cars and all that stuff. But I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But he has earned his way to whatever he owns, whatever he does. And when I go to, we were just talking before I started this conversation with you, and I'm looking at all the projections he has for all the different, because we have a lot of different things going on. It's, we have some other businesses like apparels and some other stuff is going on here that is all within the gym business, but it is, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And when he's showing me these things, I said, I never had that in smart to do this. I don't know how the heck he came up with all this. I could never do this. So Nick is, and we're going to kind of close this part by saying this. Very close friend of mine, his name is Peter Harvey, and he's amazing. I learned so much from him. He owned at one time about 20-some health clubs in the other side of the bridge. And he ended up selling eventually all his clubs because, as he told me, he says, and he loves Nick. He said, I wish I had a Nick in my family. He has amazing children, but none of his kids wanted to have anything to do with it. So he ended up selling all that. Mm-hmm. So I'm very lucky, Nick, and that's just something I wish for every parent, to have someone like Nick.
Yeah, and just saying this, and I'm not saying this because you're here or anything like that. Couple things. One is, when you started talking about Nick, responding to what I said, your whole facial expression changed, the way your voice inflection changed. Everything just got, not that anything was less than, but there was a deep level of matter of fact in your voice, and in a deep level of treading a fine line of being a realist and not being the father in this whole thing, but also you could show that pride and how proud you are of him. And Tony, you're my senior, obviously, but I'm going to say this: you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Because when I watch, I love my father, right? And I've actually had the opportunity to get to know my biological father now. And, I met him at 23. We built a relationship. But my father, Joe, is my father. Mm-hmm. And this doesn't discredit my relationship with him at all. But when I watch the interactions, and I have over the years, between you and Nick, you are a father and son that fathers are jealous of and should be jealous of. And I hope and I pray, and I'm saying this with full sincerity, that I have the kind of relationship with my son that you have with yours, because, it's reciprocal, man. He's looked up to you and learned so much from you, and vice versa. I see that you're learning so much from him. And it's so amazing to witness that from an outside perspective, non-biased, just loving, and I get so many different dynamics, but yeah, what you've laid out for him, and then what he's taken and run is incredible, man. And when I get Nick in the gym, I'm all notepads. When I get a minute to talk to you, all note. When we're in dinner, we don't talk about business. We talk about we enjoy our friendship, and I've learned so much from you guys. And Tony, we're running out of time. I could freaking talk to you for an hour. And I hope you come back, but I want to make a couple key points here. First of all, I want to thank you, right? Not just for my success, but you have laid out so many blueprints through hard work, through trial and error, through successes, through just pushing and burning the boats and going all in, that has impacted so many people in this area over the course of this past 30 years. What you've done, you know what I mean? You know, we could talk cars, we could talk all this. No. What you've done, basically, your passion and what you knew was right from the beginning has affected my life, just a single person in the room. It's affected my life to the point where, you know, I'm doing things that I never thought was possible. I mean, this podcast alone, who the hell would have a podcast, right? I think it's crazy. Right?
By the way, I really like your podcast.
Thank you, brother.
I really do. I watch them, and that's well done.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. But I want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you on behalf of a lot of people that maybe forget or get caught up or don't get the chance to say thank you, because your hard work and what you've done for this area and for yourself and for your family, and you've affected more families and you've impacted more families, and it's because of this story of you coming from, you know, your home country to this country and saying, I'm going to chase my dream, and under no circumstance I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the wrong way. I'm going to do it the right way, the way that I know way. It might not be the right way in other eyes, but in my heart of heart, I know it. And for you to do that, you've impacted. And I know that your son is not only carrying that legacy, but adding a legacy of his own to do so. And I'm only excited for what's to come. You know what I mean? Because, you know, Pure's, and, you know, we guys have 9 clubs now, right?
Yeah, nine clubs and a yoga studio. Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, 9 clubs in a yoga studio. You know, you've ventured off of the shore. You're, you know, 2 clubs in Annapolis, and there's a lot of great things that are on the horizon that are coming. We all survived COVID, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where there's a lot of gyms that did not. You know, there's a lot of guys and gals that had a really good club and ran it, but because of whatever circumstance, they had to close it, unfortunately. And it's just so awesome to sit next to you, and I'm forever grateful for a ton of things. But I just want to give you the flowers, man. You have done something that, and I know you're not done, so I'm not trying to write you off.
No.
You have done something that me as a man, as a father, aspire to do. And I used that today. I was talking to my team. We had a meeting before you got here, and, you know, there's motivation, and that's like your first level of personal development, right? I learned this from Ed Milet, actually. There's motivation. And personal development that's your first level, because motivation wears off. It's fun, it's good, it's happy, but then eventually you got to rely on, you know, mastering the mundane systems and processes, and just, you know, vision and purpose. Then you have inspiration, right? You could be inspired by me because I motivated you to get in the door, and now you're inspired by me because I'm doing this, and this. So now you're inspired to start making changes in your life. But then the third level is that aspiration, right?
Yes. That
aspiration is where, you know what I mean, not only are you motivated and inspired, but now you're also aspired to be like me, right? And you aspire me. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that with all honesty because I love the relationship you have with you and your son. I appreciate everything you've done. And I just wanted to give you your flowers and thank you for that commitment, because I know there's me being in, I think I almost kind of connect with you more so than Nick, because I've been in that from the ground up. Don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've been blessed to have you guys to learn from. But man, I was the janitor, the front desk, the salesperson. And,
I was.
And I get that so much, man. And it just like, it gives me so much more faith in myself and my business and where I'm growing, because, you know, I'm success leaves clues, man. And you guys have dropped a little breadcrumbs this whole time, and it's really cool. So I definitely want to just give you flowers and say thank you, man.
It's my pleasure.
Yep.
Thank you for having me today. And it's always good to talk about. I'm hoping maybe if one young person out there to grasp the message here, I think we did our job with this podcast.
Yes, sir. I hope that we could do another one. Because there was so much more I wanted to unpack, but, you know, you lose listeners about halfway.
Believe me, you would have lost me in 5 minutes. I cannot focus on anything. Nick always kind of laughs at me about that. He's saying about something, and I'm all of a sudden talking about something else.
Yeah, I know it, man. I get it. If anybody was to, I know maybe you're not into this, but I always give my guests an opportunity to. So if anybody wanted to follow your stuff, reach out to you. You know, we don't, you know, somebody needs to bring something of substance. Where can we find you? Do you want to give out that socials or anything, or just contact Nick?
I don't know. I mean, just for like contact me about like for question or something.
Yeah.
I think the best thing would be if you take the responsibility to kind of contact you.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, because, you know, after all this, I just told you about the hard work that I've done. And just in recent years, again, thanks to Nick,
Yeah.
and obviously, and I'm not just saying this, I really mean it from the bottom of my heart, to all these amazing people on Eastern Shore. If it wasn't for their support, I could be a rocket scientist. I would not be here where I am today without them. So that's just the bottom line.
Amen.
Without people, you don't have anything. So it's just same thing like, without family, you don't have much. So, and that said, in recent years, like past few years, let's say, I decided, Nick is now doing everything. Why am I just getting in his way? So that was my excuse to move to Florida. I don't want to get in anybody's way. So that's why, I'm going to be in Florida just kind of suffering in that 80 degrees weather.
I feel so bad for you, brother. Gosh, so bad for the suffering. Well, man, you've earned it, man. So, yeah, you hear that. If you guys got any questions for Tony, you contact me, and we'll see if it's worth getting to him. But...
No, I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way.
I know. Yeah, we got you. Well, that'll wrap us up. Tony, thank you so much for being here, man. It was an honor to have you here. And the story, I mean, guys, if you can't get anything from that story right alone, and it doesn't matter what times you're in, it doesn't matter what year or decade you're in, it's all the same. You got to get up, you got to take action, you got to go after it, and that right there is a prime example of somebody that just burned the boats. He came over, he decided to do what he needs to do, and now he's reaping a lot of the benefits of what he's done. So, but that'll wrap us up for this episode of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. Guys, again, please, if you get value from this or know somebody that would, send it over, like, subscribe to our channels, leave us a review, a comment. We always love to hear you. And until next time, what are you doing today to become a champion?